have to do is take Jesus in their heart, and these other things, keeping the Sabbath, not eating meat, and not eating bread on Passover, these things are from the past. And once the person has taken upon Jesus, they don't have to observe any of these things.
Yeah.
As far as the Jews are concerned.
Yeah. When you receive Jesus, he said, I'm not going to quit the law or make the end of the law. I'm going to fulfill the law. Because the law and the prophets and the Psalms are prophesying or talking about it. So he is fulfilling the law by keeping it. And I know in the New Testament there's only 3 or 4 people that have kept it in the New Testament that we can read. And that was Yeshua. And it was Paul. He says that I'm righteous according to the law. Because he was a high scholar. And
being a high scholar and being a righteous person are not the same thing, particularly in those days.
Yeah, but remember my English is not so good. So if it's explaining something, and then it's the parents of John the Baptist. They were also righteous. The thing is that those parents and Paul, they are doing sin, but they are making up for the sins by sacrificing. Yeshua is not doing sin, so we don't have to pay for his sacrifice. He's keeping everything that's in the law. He's doing everything that has been prophesied about the Messiah.
What would be an example of something that the other 3 did, where they had to bring a sacrifice to make up for it?
Well, you're a Jew, and you probably...
No, this is from Christian scripture, so I have no idea what these people are said to have done that required sacrifice.
The thing is, the Bible says all the mankind has moved away from God. In Romans, so everybody there's not one single person in the whole universe. It's not saying like that, but I'm just making it up. There's not one really seeking
Christian scripture.
Yeah, there's no single one actually seeking it. The faith I'm having is God reaching out for me, and I'm just receiving.
Okay.
That he's the one who's keeping up my faith, and he's the one that's keeping up the relationship. If he do like this, I will wake up tomorrow and I will start believing. He's just constantly reaching out for me. And I see what Paul is writing, that there's no single one person in the whole universe that are actually grabbing out for the real true God. There's no one. God, and I believe that Paul also did sin. But
in Christian tradition, what is the nature of the sin that he sinned?
The Bible is not telling what Bible, what sin Paul was doing. The Bible says no. But
is there any parallel explanations?
He was killing Jews.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, was he killing them for nothing?
He was a Jew himself. He had, according to the law, he had to do, according to his faith, he has to kill all these people who were following Jesus. And he accepted in his heart, this is right. And then he was hit down to the ground, and Jesus is coming, and he's asking, who are you? I am the Lord who you are persecuting.
Okay.
For following, not trying to stop it.
So first,
he repent and become a
So the sin that Paul was committing, that he had to bring sacrifices for, was killing Jews.
No, I don't know.
That's an example of it.
It could be
Okay. So
this is happening back in the last time of his life.
Okay. So in the time of Jesus, before the temple was destroyed, we say that for 50 years, the doors of the temple hung open as a visible example of God's patience. That we say that the entire temple had become completely corrupt. That's our tradition. That the priesthood was bought and sold. It became almost a plaything of the Romans.
Yeah.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
And we say that that was the case for 50 years before the temple was destroyed, which means it includes the time of Jesus.
And 46 years plus minus 1 or 3 years.
So,
According
to
to
say,
the New Testament.
by the way, we don't refer to the Christian scriptures as the New Testament. We refer to the
But I agree that they're building it. One moment in the New Testament, it's saying Jesus is coming up, and he sees the temple, and he just cries, and it's just, what are you doing with my father's house? You're making it as a
house for money changers.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
Den of thieves, whatnot?
thieves, and
Yeah.
because this should be a
That's
house.
what we say about it.
This should be a house of prayer.
Yes,
Tear
my
down
house shall be a
all
house of
the
prayer.
money changers, and he's going mad because what they are doing with the place should be a holy place. And the Pharisees are saying, "Who are you? And what proof? How can you prove that you have the right to do this kind of things?" And he said, "Tear down this temple, and I will build it up again in 3 days." How can you? And they answering it back again. How can you build up this temple in 3 days when we have been using 46 years just to build it? But then the scripture is saying that.
Shalom, shalom, Chag Sameach. Welcome.
Then the scripture said that Jesus was talking about the temple himself.
Shalom, shalom, Chag Sameach.
So, if you tell, everybody was thinking that if he was talking about that temple, but as Christians, we believe that God moves inside us, and God was living in Jesus because he was not doing sin. Had Jesus been doing sin, God had to move out. God moved in there. Jesus was the temple of the Father.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and he
Yes.
said,
Shalom, shalom.
tear
Chag
down,
Sameach. Welcome.
tear down this temple. He was saying it in a kind of a way. He wanted to listen. If you didn't want to listen,
Shalom, shalom, Chag Sameach.
then you were thinking that he's talking about the temple in Mount Moriah. But if you were listening, he was talking about himself. Tear down this temple, I will build it up in 3 days. That's what happened when Pontius Pilatus is crucifying him. And it's not Pontius that are crucifying him, because he gave his own life in Gethsemane. It happened in Gethsemane. Then he totally surrendered to God at the last final wish. He was the last final test. The Bible is saying Jesus was tested just as we are tested, but he was tested without failure. This was the last test. Do you want to do this? And he wanted to do it, and it actually happened. So because of it happening, then I am able to get born again, because
Yes.
this is the biggest murder of justice. Do you say that in English? Justice murder. When somebody is innocent
Yeah.
and they're judged and you kill them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miscarriage of justice.
Yeah. So he didn't have any sin at all.
Yes.
So this is the world's biggest murder of justice. It happened. And Jesus is saying no one is having greater love than the one who's giving himself for another.
So
So that temple was built up again in 3 days. It happened in...
So this gets back to what I was talking about before. That you have